By weight, the average human adult is approximately 70% water, and human cells are 90% water. Water is critical to cell metabolism as a solvent for transportation of nutrients, as a medium for excretion, a means for heat control, as a lubricant for joints, and for shock absorption. Therefore, water quality is extremely important to our health. Drinking quality water helps keep us healthy. Natural quality water is found in some very well-known longevity villages around the world. For example, Lourdes in France, Nortenauer in Germany, Hunza Valley in Pakistan, and Tecolte in Mexico. The water is so good that it is called healing water. Remote from industry, factories and farms, water in these areas is clean, pure, non-polluted, and is rich in active hydrogen ions. Water carries rich minerals while flowing through natural mineral rocks. Such minerals include magnesium, selenium, chromium, zinc, and phosphorus, which can help prevent diseases. Microcluster water molecules are more easily absorbed by cells, therefore accelerating metabolism and blood circulation. With its strong, negative oxidation reduction potential value, compared to tap water and bottled water, this kind of healing water is able to neutralize free radicals, which give rise to aging and diseases in the human body. However, in places other than these villages, polluted water is a serious threat to human health.
The Kifissos is treated like a sewer. Tons of toxic waste are illegally dumped into the water by heavy industry that lines its banks.
A health alert tonight after new research finds banned antibiotics and even arsenic in poultry products.
Prime News on HLN. We got a parent alert for you. In this one, a possible link between pesticides on our fruits and vegetables and ADHD, a disorder that can also
investigates your food. Are we being exposed to harmful chemicals and we don't even
chicken,
know?
we all love it, can give you an infection, almost impossible to treat, and it only affects
Modern
us
technology
women.
and innovations are intended to help make our lives better and safer. However, we can hardly control the quality of our food, which is contaminated with pesticides, antibiotics, preservatives, and additives. Now, what do we do? Choose the AB9 Water Purification System. So you don't have to worry anymore about the safety of the water you're drinking. The AB9 Water Purification System and also solve the problems caused by pesticide residuals, preservatives, antibiotics, hormones, and other chemical additives in vegetables and meats, which are all harmful to our health.
It's very common for water supply authorities to either put chlorine or chloramine in the water supply. Now, what we have here is a little bit of tap water, and we can assume that there is already chlorine or chloramine in this. We're going to do a chlorine test here. What we have is 3 cups here, and I will be pouring tap water into these 3 cups, and we also have AB9 water here. So first off, let me pour a little bit of tap water into this cup. And next, in the second cup. So what I'm going to do in this cup is, I have some cucumbers here, and I'm going to be taking some of these cucumbers and putting them into this cup. Now, another thing that we commonly do in the kitchen is we wash our hands, often with tap water, most often with tap water. So let's simulate that in this third cup. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a few of my fingers into this cup. A little bit cold, a little bit more, for good measure. Now, let's do the chlorine test.
As we can see here, we are going to put a little bit of chlorine tester into all of these 3 tap water samples, and then also the AB9 solution.
So I'm going to begin pouring them into these smaller cups here. The second one that we have the cucumber in, and then the tap water that I used to wash my hand, and then the AB9 water put into this cup. First off, ordinary tap water, put a little bit of this chlorine tester. Already we can be seeing that this is taking on a yellow color, indicating that there is the presence of chlorine in this tap water. Let's take a look at the water that we were washing the cucumbers in. Interesting, it's not turning yellow. Why is that? The cucumber, actually what it is doing, it is absorbing the chlorine in the tap water. Let's take a look at what happens to the water that I put my fingers into. Very similar to what happened with the water that has the cucumbers in it. We can see that there's no clear discoloration, indicating that actually in this case, my fingers were absorbing, or my hand, skin, actually absorbing the chlorine in the water. So let's take a look at the AB9 water. The AB9 water is still transparent, we can clearly see, and no discoloration. So, what do you want to drink? Human blood, on average, has a pH level of 7.4. Over the course of our life, the acidity in our blood actually increases as we consume more meat, beverages that are more acidic, as well as a range of foods. What I have in front of me right here is some samples of water, and of course we have AB9 and also a sample of a soft drink. What we will do now is a pH test. First off, I'm going to be pouring a little bit of this soft drink. Now let's see what happens when we drop a few drops of this pH tester solution in each of these samples in front, beginning with the soft drink. Now we can see, beginning with the soft drink, that these 3 drinks are more acidic. Now if we have green, that indicates that the pH level is neutral. Hence, right here we have green, and here we have the spring water, which is becoming a little bit more blue. Here, AB9 is the most alkaline, takes on a purple color. A lot of drinks that we consume are actually acidic, as you can see, such as soft drinks. However, AB9 has the benefit of being able to neutralize different foods and drinks that we are consuming. How? Let's take a look. AB9. Let's pour AB9 in all of these other samples in front. So we can see that AB9 has been able to neutralize these four to various extents. What about the soft drink? Soft drinks are notorious for being very acidic. Now, if we put some of the AB9 into the soft drink, what's going to happen? Interestingly enough, it is still very acidic, highly acidic in fact. AB9 is not able to neutralize the effects of a highly acidic soft drink. In fact, on average, it would take 30 cups of AB9 to neutralize the effects of 1 cup of soft drink. So we can see over here we have the acidic drinks, and over here, AB9. What would you choose to drink? I already made up my mind. Free radicals are a byproduct of normal metabolism in our bodies. Smoking, alcohol, exposure to too much sunlight, as well as food with pesticide residuals can actually increase the free radicals in our body. Now, why is this harmful for us? In fact, the more free radicals in our body, the greater the oxidization activities. Hence, we are exposing ourselves to a range of diseases, and actually we can increase the aging process in our bodies. I would like to introduce you now to an Oxidation Reduction Potential meter, or ORP for short. Now, what this ORP meter measures is, you will see here a number come up. If it's positive, this is indicating the oxidizing effects of a liquid. The higher the number, the higher the positive number that is, the greater the oxidizing effects of this liquid. Now, if it's a negative number, then we have an anti-oxidizing effect in the liquid. I'm going to pour a little bit of water in each of these, and let's see how they do on the ORP meter here. Now, first off, let's try mineral water. Well, we can see that it has a positive value. Let's take a look at distilled, pure distilled water. Not quite as high, but it still has a positive value of 110, 115. How about tap water? Tap water has a higher positive value of 180, even 190. And now let's try spring water. Spring water quite high as well at around 190. AB9 water. Let's see. Wow. That's the first time that I've seen the negative sign come up. Wow. AB9 water is the only one that has a negative value. All these four are positive. This is the only one that has a negative value. Have a drink among all these 5 glasses. In fact, it's not a question of which one I'm going to choose. AB9 water all the way. I've made my choice. What about you? Iodine is highly acidic and also is an oxidant. So what we're going to do is drop a little bit of it in different samples of water as well as AB9. Beginning with mineral water, pure distilled water, regular tap water, spring water, and finally AB9 water. So I'm going to drop a couple of drops of this iodine into each of these, beginning with the mineral water. So we can see that these 4 samples are acidic, whereas AB9 was able to neutralize both the acidic and also the oxidizing effects of iodine. So, seeing is believing. Many of the fruits that we consume are sprayed with pesticides as well as other chemicals. So obviously before we consume them, we want to be washing them in water. But the thing is, what water? I have some samples of water in front of me, including our AB9 water solution. What I'm going to do is to pour a little bit of water in all of these, and let's see what happens. First, beginning with mineral water. So let's take a look first off at the mineral water. Doesn't seem to be any clear changes in the coloration of the water. How about pure distilled water? And for tap water, doesn't appear to be any coloration or any change in the water. And now we have spring water. So let's compare AB9 water with regular tap water. Let's take a look. Tap water doesn't live up to the expectations of me, a consumer that really wants to be having healthy strawberries. It's not even working at decomposing any of the chemicals or the pesticides in it. However, AB9 clearly, you can see that there's a cloudiness here, and also a little bit of bubbles. Not just a little, but quite a few bubbles here. So indicating that clearly is some decomposing going on here. So I made my choice. I'm going with AB9. What about you? Dried vegetables, such as the one right here, often contain preservatives and food coloring. What do we often do when we're going to be cooking with such dried vegetables? We tend to wash them in water, or hopefully in AB9 micro cluster water. What I'm going to do is pour a little bit of water in these cups in front of me, and of course the AB9 micro cluster water, and let's see what happens. Okay, now I'm going to take a little bit of this dried vegetable and put it in each of these water samples. I'll stir each one. So what do we see? Let's take a look. First off, we have mineral water here, and we can see that pretty much no change in composition of the water. We can still clearly see through it. Hence, there doesn't appear to be any decomposing of any of the chemicals that are in this dried vegetable. Same here with the distilled pure water. Also with the tap water as well, there doesn't appear to be any coloration, cloudiness. Same here as well with the spring water. Let's compare the AB9 microcluster water and also the tap water. Let's put them side to side and let's see what happens. We have placed this dried vegetable inside, and actually if you look through the tap water, pretty much it is still transparent, you can see through, but with the AB9 microcluster water, there is a green coloration, which is good in fact, because what this is indicating is that there is decomposing taking place inside this glass of some of the chemicals that are in the dried vegetable to help preserve it and also make it look a little bit more appealing to the consumer. So, when it comes to me washing my dried vegetables before I cook, I've clearly made my choice. What about you? Dried food, such as this dried fungus right here, often contains preservatives and food coloring, which very likely is not very good for our health. Now, what do we do about that? Often we wash such dried foods in water before we end up consuming them in some dish. First off, We have mineral water, pure distilled water, tap water, spring water, and then we have our AB9 water right here. So let's put a few pieces of this dried fungus into each one and see what happens. So let's see what happens after we stir each of these solutions that have a little bit of the dried fungus in it. Now, these 4 samples of water here are still relatively, as you can see, relatively clear, no apparent coloration, or, as we can see here, bubbles. AB9. What is happening in AB9 here? That doesn't smell very good. What AB9 is doing here is that it is decomposing some of the chemicals inside this preserved dried fungus. This then is making the fungus that much healthier to consume. We're not going to be exposed to as many of these chemicals then. So I've made my choice. How about you? Some of the drinks that we consume actually include artificial flavoring. Perhaps this green grape beverage included. I'm going to pour a little bit of this into these 2 cups right here. And now here I have tap water and AB9 water. Let me pour both of these into these 2 cups and let's see what happens. We can clearly see between the tap water and the AB9 water, we can see coloration in the AB9 water that is taking on a yellow color. This is very encouraging. It's indicating that artificial color is present thanks to the AB9, that there's some decomposing of that artificial coloring or artificial flavoring. What does that mean for us though, as consumers? Are not so healthy for our bodies. Perhaps these kind of chemicals could increase the effects of aging and maybe even help bring on the onset of diseases. So I made my choice. What about you? Antibiotics, hormones, and other chemicals are often placed into poultry and fish in order to increase the growth rate of these meats. Why is this? Well, in order to meet the demands of that many more consumers who want to consume meat. This chicken sample right here, we sent a sample of this to a laboratory to verify the presence of both antibiotics and hormones. I am going to take some of this chicken and place it into these 2 cups right here. Now I have tap water, and over here I have AB9 water. What I'm going to do is to pour both of these into these 2 cups filled with chicken. Let's see what happens. So we can clearly see that AB9 in my left hand right here, it's certainly cloudier and you can't see nearly as easily through as you can in the tap water sample right here. So what does this mean? Well, in fact, what is happening in this solution with AB9 water is we have decomposing of some of the antibiotics, hormones, and perhaps other chemicals. So the next time and every time that you are preparing meat, are you going to be washing with tap water or AB9? Clearly, I've chosen AB9. What have you chosen? Harmful cholesterols will cluster on the inner layer of our veins if there's too much fat in our blood. free radicals will bind with these cholesterols and oxidize them. Now, this results in cardiovascular diseases, which is unfortunately a very common cause of death. So what we're going to do is a little bit of an experiment. We have oil here, cooking oil to be precise, and we're going to be mixing it with different sources of water, of course including our AB9 microcluster water. And let's see what happens. So let me pour a little bit of this cooking oil in each of these cups. So let me pour a little bit of water in each of these cups, and let's see what happens. So first, let's take a look at the mineral water then. And now the distilled pure water, tap water, spring water. And now let's take a look at the AB9 microcluster water. Definitely something a little bit different happening with this. Wow, not nearly as much separation, if any, between the oil and the water. In fact, what we have here is the oil is emulsifying in AB9 microcluster water. So what this says is you have oil and fat dispersing throughout AB9 microcluster water. If that is happening here, think about what that means for your blood circulation in your veins. Going back to if you have a high fat content, if you are consuming more AB9 microcluster water, think about the impact. So let's compare. You can clearly see greater separation between the oil on the top and the water on the bottom for all of these other sources of water. So I've made my choice. What about you? When drinking tea, what is the best water to use? Well, if you were to ask our ancestors, they probably would have said natural unboiled water. So what are our options in present day? Let's take a look at some right here on the table. And of course, including AB9 microcluster water. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pour a little bit of water in these cups, and then I will put tea bag in each one, and let's see what happens. So what we're going to do is a little experiment with tea, green tea bags here. First off, I'm going to put into the mineral water. And then next up we have the pure water and the tap water and the spring water. And lastly, our AB9 microcluster water. So let's compare AB9 microcluster water and the spring water. If we take a look here, we can clearly see that the AB9 microcluster water has a tea color to it. I'm not entirely certain what color this is, but clearly here we have tea color. Why is this? Well, AB9 microcluster water, the water cluster molecules are smaller, which is great for bringing out enzymes from the tea, and hence makes the tea that much more tasty. How about I give it a try? I've made my choice. What about you? I have a light bulb here, and as you can see, when I connect these two electrodes, it's lighting up. Clearly there's an electric current here. Now, what I'm going to do very shortly is I will put these two electrodes in each of these solutions in front of me, including of course our AB9 water. Why is this important? Now, conductivity, or high conductivity, occurs in the presence of an abundance of minerals, also oxygen-carrying, highly dissolvable matter. So let's take a look. First off, we have mineral water. And of course our AB9 water. So first off, Let's see mineral water. Let's see how well it conducts electricity with the use of these two electrodes. Not particularly bright. And I'm not saying about how smart that water is. The light bulb, that is. Now let's see. The pure distilled water. Let's have a look. Faint, very faint. How about tap water? Okay, brighter, a little bit more encouraging. And spring water. Bright, perhaps it could be brighter. Now let's try AB9 water. Let's see how well this conducts electricity. Wow. I would say that's pretty much the brightest of all so far. And actually, that's making me feel much, much more comfortable. Because the higher the intensity of the light bulb, the greater the conductivity. And then in terms of cell metabolism, this is going to be really the best choice among all five here. So I've already made my choice. AB9 water. What about you? Iron nails, just like the ones I have in this cup here, when they're placed in a humid environment or in water, will gradually rust as a result of oxidization. I have 5 samples of water here, of course including our AB9 solution.
I wonder what will happen after we place nails in each of the solutions. You see, in the mineral water, clearly the nails have rusted, as well as in the pure still water, also the tap water and the natural spring water. However, the nails in AB9 water are still the same. No signs of rusting. This experiment shows that AB9 water is a strong antioxidant. Quality water, perfect life. Taste the essence of food and indulge yourself in the original flavor. Constant flowing of purity from mouth to heart. From inside to outside, your health is guaranteed. I believe what I see. I believe what I choose. AB9.